Diglett is banned. Bottom text. What becomes good? Top text. Diglett is now banned, which is the first time when it comes to Little Cup. Trappers have been banned before, such as Gothita in most generations and Trapinch in Generation 7. However, we haven't had a Diglett-less metagame. That begs the question, what becomes good, what becomes bad, and what becomes I'll be starting from the top of the previous viability rankings. So first we have Brawler. It's hard to say this will ever be bad unless we get different fighting types, but I think this makes it worse, funnily enough. Gothita is the new Trapper, and it's significantly better at trapping Brawler due to having super effective coverage on baseline. Both Wingull and Wattrel get a massive improvement as a result of not having to deal with a fast Pokemon with rock moves, and Drifloon gets pretty alright as well. It's still good as a general purpose win condition, but good counters to it are seeing success. Also, we have Stunky and Scarlet now, who I'll get into more later, but both can soft check Brawler, which is quite nice. A+ still, though. So, Pawniard's up next. Pretty sure it's just a straight-up win for Pawniard. Gothita can still trap it with Terra Blast fighting, and we have the birds, Stunky, and Scarlet, but it's just so fantastic when you don't have to worry about Diglett coming in and killing you with substitute shenanigans. Also, having access to Low Sweep is really valuable speed control that's really hard to switch into, and Pawniard has a hard time being anything besides good, and one of the biggest annoyances to it leaves. You're feeling pretty alright. A+. Next up is Toad Skull. It's still good and will always be good. I mean, it dislikes the rise of the birds, but it's one of the few knockoff users. Like, losing to the birds is bad, but you also become the best ground in the tier. Like, it's hard to say it ever is downgraded, really. And what about Scarlet and Stunky that you mentioned with Brawler? Doesn't Toad have a hard time with those? Like, yeah, but like, Earth Power kills him. Like, just bada bing, bada boom. You get out of here. It's still good and will continue to be good until we get, like, Vullaby and Meanfu back. But until that comes, A+. Drifloon. One of the big problems Drifloon had to deal with is gone. It's kind of neutral because the other two flying types in Wingull or Wattrel, I mean, they got big stonks, but I mean, I can hardly complain. A bird has a good ability and you have a large amount of set flexibility. A+ because also you just do so much stuff because you have access to defog and you're good against webs. Gothita, big win because now it's the only trap in the tier, but with that being said, Diglett was preferred for a really good reason. It can still trap things, but doesn't do it as consistently, doesn't have as good of a stab type. But I mean, it's still A tier. I mean, a trapper is still a trapper. What do you want me to say? If it gets a lot of usage, then it probably bumps up to A+, possibly S, but we'll see. Marionette, basically neutral. It hates the birds because Watt is electric and Wingull has knock. It lost to Crab 1v1 without Terra on baseline, but now it doesn't have to deal with Diglett anymore, so that's pretty good. A tier. Zorua Hisui. Neutral, basically. I mean, Diglett didn't really do much to it, and doesn't really mind, like, oh, well, the birds are things. Yeah, but you kind of just deal with them naturally anyways, whatever. Webs gets worse, but I mean, its general utility is still very good. A tier. Glimmet. It's worse, but because it's a grounded poison that can also set hazards, it doesn't drop. Still A-. Also, you match up well versus the birds, so there's that. Quaxly. I'm a big Quaxly disbeliever. I think it drops hard when you already had trouble dealing with Drifloon, and now you add Wattrel, which can hit it with electric, and Wingull that has knock, and it's just B. Not B- because it's a spinner with recovery, so there's still something there, but like, bad. Surskit. Surskit wasn't having big Diglett issues because it had an Eviolite set, so it didn't really have to worry about Diglett too much. But now it has big issues when flying types are all the rage, so it's a definite downgrade. It does have Scarlet to do the nasty plot thing, but it's not very good when it's worse off in a lot of other aspects. B+. Shelter. The boy's basically dead. You can still use it, but this is perhaps the biggest nerf you could give Shelter without outright banning it. Its main setup fodder in Diglett is gone. Its main supporter in Diglett is gone. Chessman was also released recently, which blanks its normal set because it has bulletproof, so you can't hit it with Rock Blast. It can run specially offensive because it has access to Hydro Pump and Ice Beam, and then Terra Blast Electric. But what made the physical set so good is that you could reliably use Liquidation plus Rock Blast to threaten a whole bunch of the tier, and it was really easy to set up, and now it doesn't have that because a lot more things like really messing with it and hitting it on the special side, which it is absolutely terrible at. B. Voltorb, borderline A+ tier, possibly S tier. Mon gets cracked when the only other 20 speeder is gone. It's blazing fast, has good support moves, and is a threatening attacker, or Believer's winning big. Also, it checks the next two. Wingull, Pico's gonna push you into the grave. Mr. Briny's Revenge. Might be Ed plus tier. It's just so annoying to deal with when it's 19 speed and has knock. It's borderline impossible to not get value out of. Oh, also it's got U-turn and Roost, so good luck trying to hit it. Solid A with chance for improvement, but Gothita has Thunderbolt. Very good, keep it in mind when building. Wattrel, also A tier. Mon is nigh unkillable sometimes. It has 2 usable abilities in Competitive and Volt Absorb, both of which change how it plays and drastically. It's the best way to punch a defog attempt when you can agility after doubling your special attack and kill the enemy team. It's also best check as itself. The reason why it's not ban worthy yet is because its stats aren't really fantastic and you can just sort of brute force it. High up on the radar and not A plus tier because despite its valuable immunities, it's weak to rocks and only has middling speed. That's all of the A tiers and most of them hold up. I'm not going to cover everything below A, but I'll mention the standout hits. Nimble, it's significantly more reliable now that it can check the remaining Trapper and not die immediately afterwards. Losing Diglett as a partner sucks, but the fact that you can still trap and not get trapped yourself works out in its favor pretty well. Also balances out hyper offense, and it's kind of wacky how good First Impression does that. Tentative A-, but definitely can see it rising to A. Fuecoco, well, a fire type wall is actually really bad when the best offensive presence in the tier just destroys it, and now it's gone, so it's quite good now, especially with Terra. Rock's weakness is bad, but you take on Pawn, Toad, Disclaimer kind of, but not really, Crab. Oh, crap, you even can take on the birds if you do with Terra Electric. I'm investing in Fuecoco stocks, and I think you should too, A-. Larvesta. Glass Cannon that's no longer paired up poorly versus the Trapper, and gives massive advantage for having a type advantage versus Psychic. Also good because Diglett was one of the best ways to put up rocks. It's A- because the rock's weakness is pretty terrible. Mudbray. It no longer gets trapped by Air Balloon Diglett, and it rises not necessarily because it becomes better on baseline, but because it's just sort of the best ground now. Watch out for Scarf versions, they're definitely going to be pretty good. A-. Stunky. Big rise in Stunky stocks, unironically a fantastic Pokemon. 18 speed, dark type, so you're a poison type that doesn't get tracked by Gothita. You have Sucker Punch for anti-hyper offense. You have access to Stab Gunk Shot now, and you still have Fire Blast for Pawniard. You absorb Toxic Spikes and check the previous 3 A+ ranked Pokemon. Really solid all around, A tier. Tinkatink. One of Tinkatink's biggest flaws was that it was trapped by Diglett, and as a result, could do very little most games if it didn't Terra. And if you did Terra, it's a Tinkatink with tiny little baby hands. It's not an offensive threat, it's a utility one. Why would you do that? It's terrible. What do you mean its main crippling weakness is gone? Oh, right, Diglett got banned. Yeah, Mon unironically becomes A- tier from its current C rank, oh yeah, it's got Knockoff, it's got Ice Hammer, it has T-Wave, it has Stealth Rock, and it can take attacks pretty well. It's not meant to do damage, and it's a pure utility mon, but it does a lot. Shroodle, it's just good. General metagame trends seem to show Shroodle stocks going up because it's just solid in general. Good at dealing with Drifloon, getting a priority knockoff into either of the birds is solid, and it's a good pivot that absorbs Toxic Spikes. Diglett Shroodle, kind of bugs it. It wasn't really an issue because you could just priority parting shot out, but hey guys, it's editor shoddy. Quick disclaimer, Shroodle was pretty good with Diglett because you could parting shot or U-turn into the Trapper pretty freely. Diglett also liked the knock support, so it's bad, but I don't expect Shroodle to go down because it's still got a lot of good positive traits. Tentative A- because utility and it's kind of bonkers. Sandile. It's a Scarf Ground with useful resistances that can spiral out of control pretty fast. It's just solid. Pairs up decently well versus the birds. Terra Electric might be worth trying out. Donk, Winkle, and resist Wattrel stabs. B+. Final Pokemon I'm mentioning is Salandit because it actually has a niche now. It's no longer terrible. Before, it would way too easily die to Diglett because it's got a quadruple ground weakness, and no, don't try using Air Balloon to shore that weakness, it's not going to work. It's still weak to Psychic from Gothita, but Gothita is significantly easier to deal with. There is a lot of variety within Salandit's moveset, such as Thunder Wave, Will-O-Wisp, Overheat, Flamethrowers, Sludge Bomb, Nasty Plot, and Thief. It's got a lot going for it. Terra also benefits it greatly because you can just lose the ground weakness, such as an immunity with flying, a resistance with grass, or you can go into ground yourself so that way you can break over opposing poisons. B+. It's not higher yet, because despite its good points in being grounded poison, an 18 speeder, and flexibility and item, it's still trapped by Gothita and weak to rocks. Any amount of this information could turn it to be wrong. Like, somebody may find out a new tech because Diglett's banned or whatever, and that just blows this entire thing underwater. But I wanted to make it as, oh, well, Diglett banned, what do I do now? As a quick little guide to that, and I hope you enjoy. If you could please like, share, subscribe, comment down below, all that good stuff, it would be greatly appreciated. And as always, have a good day.